Good evening, crafting friends. I'm Dorene Decibus from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Fun Fold Friday at our new time, 7 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. With it being spring now and the days are so much longer, it is just, I think, easier for all of us to kind of join in on a little later. I hope it works out for you as well. So, tonight we are going to do a fun fold using the Spotlight on Nature. So I'm excited about this set. As I said in my catalog kickoff, this particular set is my favorite in the catalog. So it definitely is something that I've been looking forward to using. I've got new lights, so I'm hoping this makes a better difference. I'm just learning how to adjust them. So I've got different lights around the room, and hopefully that's going to prevent having a lot of glare off of my glass mat. So we are going to make what I'm calling a buckle card fun fold, and I'll show that to you in just a minute. But first I want to talk about this set, the Spotlight on Nature. It is a cling stamp set, and it has some beautiful floral and leaf images, a butterfly, 2 sentiments, and some little background stamps. It also has a set of circle dies that go with it, and the circle dies have 3 different patterns on them. We have these little embossed lines, and we have 3 dies of each, and they do you can stack one upon the other, and we have one with little dashes and then one with little 3 ovals that are on it. So it's really a fun die set to use, and we're going to be using that tonight, and I'll show you in just a minute. So our card is, I'm calling it, like I said, a buckle fold, because on the front of the card I have a buckle here. So this is what the card looks like. I'm going to be using the Wildly Flowering Designer Series paper from the new catalog. It is, I have to say, one of my favorites, of course, because it has, blues and just my favorite colors. So tonight I'm using actually a really, one of my favorite color combinations. I'm using Crumb Cake and Misty Moonlight, and to go with the paper. So let me just move the pieces out of the way so that you can see what the card is going to look like. So we have the buckle that opens here, and then on the inside you're just treated to some beautiful Designer Series paper. Now I'm going to bring this down because it opens up. So I want you to be able to see the whole card. So let me just make sure it's all still in focus. So now I'm going to open it this way. It's going to open up, and we have another part of the flower and some of that layering of the circle dies on top of some other Designer Series paper, and then this piece opens up this way. So you have the 1, 2, 3, 4 different panels on the inside. Then you've got a 5th panel. Then you've got a 6th panel, and then you've got the buckle. So it is a card that allows you to really have a lot of Designer Series paper on and stamped images. So let me just set this aside for a moment, and let's go over. Let me just reach to my printer. Sorry about that. I always print out kind of like a cheat sheet that has all of my measurements on it. So let's start with Crumb Cake. Now with this card, putting it together is key. So that is definitely the important part to do. So all 3 of these pieces, we have one that measures 5.5 by 8.5, our standard card size. We have another one that measures 4.25 by 4 3/4, and then I have a piece that measures 1 3/4 by 3.5. All 3 of these pieces need to be scored. So I'm going to get out my scoring tool, my scoreboard. And let me make sure you can see this okay. So I'm going to start, each one of these only has one score mark that you need to put on. So on the base of the cardstock, we're going to score it at 4 1/4. And that piece is done. And then on this piece, whoops, I lost a piece. It's under here. On this piece here, we're going to go along the 4 3/4 mark, and we're going to score it at a 1/2 inch. So again, since this is 4 3/4, I can just go to 4 1/4 and score that. And I'm going to put that aside. And then on my piece that's 1 3/4 by 3 1/2, I'm going to again score at the 1/2 inch mark. And so this is 3 1/2. I'm going to just go to, I'm just going to go to my 1/2. It's actually, yeah, 3 1/2. I'm going to go to my 1/2 inch mark right here. There we go. So our scoring is all done. We will need our paper cut though, our paper cutter. So I'm just going to put this away for now, and I'm going to do my folding. So on this one, and I'm going to use my bone folder to give it a nice crease. So this one I'm going to just fold it in and score it. And then what I'm going to do is take my paper snips, and I am just going to cut these corners off so it will have a smaller piece that's going to connect to the cardstock. So there's that piece. I'm going to do the same to this, but I won't be doing it to the card base. So again, I'm just going to cut the corners off, kind of miter these down. There we go. Get these into the trash so they're out of our way. All right, so that's our card base. Now we're going to need some basic white cardstock. We're going to need enough to cut these 2 circles out, and I'm just going to bring this up close so you can see that this circle has the little embossed lines on it. So pretty. So we're going to need a scrap to cut that. Then we're going to need a piece that measures 1 1/8 inch by 4 1/8. And we're going to need a piece that measures 2 7/8 by 2 7/8, and then a piece that measures 3 inches by 3 inches. So let me just put those down so the sizes can be seen through. And then the last thing we're going to need are 5 pieces of 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. So that's those pieces. So there's our basic white. For Misty Moonlight, it is very easy. We only need 1 piece that is 3 inches by 3 inches. And then finally, for the Designer Series paper, we're going to need a piece to cut out this circle. And I just want to show you what edge is on the circle in case, just to get it close up so you can see that really pretty. So we need that circle. I cut it out of a piece of Misty Moonlight Designer Series paper. On the other side, we have some floral image on it that we'll be using inside the card. Then I am going to need a piece that measures 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, and a piece that measures 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. So that's the 2 7/8. This is the 2 3/4. And then I'm going to need a smaller piece that measures 1 inch by 4 inch. And then I used 4 different designs on this, but I'm going to need 4 pieces of Designer Series paper that measures 4 inches by 4 inches. So that's everything that we need for tonight to make this card. But don't worry, I'm going to post this in the comments afterwards. So the first thing that we're going to have to do, and let me just measure, because I don't remember this exact measurement, but it will not take me long to measure it real quick. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. So 1 1/4. That's what I thought it was. All right, so we are going to go into our card with the paper cutter, and I'm going to hold the card. I'm going to fold it just so that I have the fold mark right where it needs to be, and it's really nice and visible. And I am going to cut a strip that is 1 1/4 inches down here, and then cut it across here. So I'm going to use my paper cutter to do that. I'm going to go out and measure to 1 1/4, and I am going to bring my paper trimmer blade down to 4 1/4, and then I'm going to put this right back to 4 1/4 and get that right in there, and I am going to put this at 1 1/4 and trim that piece right off. So that gives me the front of my card. This is just a scrap now. I can just put it off to the side. This gives me that first fold and that extra piece that I had. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece here, and I am going to be attaching it right here so that this will fold over nice and even. Now I can use my snail, or my Stampin' seal, or I can use my liquid glue. And I think I'm going to use my liquid glue. And I think this might just be a tad. I just need to make sure I get it right to the edge so it will fold. Yep, that'll be fine. So I'm going to use my liquid glue on this because it allows me to make some movement. So remember, I want this to go on this top piece here. So I'm just going to put some glue right across this. I do not need a lot. I do not want a lot because I don't want the glue to go everywhere. So this is going to go right here, and I'm going to move this so it's right at the edge and right where it needs to go along here. Because we want that to be able to fold nicely as well. So here we have this piece. And now what we have to do is here we have to add our buckle piece. And we're going to do the same thing. And I'm going to just add some of the liquid glue. Again, not a lot. It doesn't take a lot of glue to adhere to cardstock to cardstock. And I want this to be right in the middle. And again, I want this over so that we can fold this in. And if you need to adjust the fold at all, I see the problem. I thought this was a little off, so I'm just going to put this in my paper trimmer and just trim. It's a little, so just not even, probably a 1/16 of an inch off. So let's just get that so we will have a nice even piece. Perfect. With these kinds of folds, you want to make sure your pieces are as even can be so you don't end up with something that looks kind of funky. So now that will close. This will go over here and that will go there. All right, now let's get started with some stamping and some layering. So the first piece that's going to go down is this smaller piece, which was the 1x4. I'm just going to use my Stampin' seal. Let's get it started. And it's going to go like this. This paper is just 1/8 of an inch around it, so it's not, you're not going to have a big border, but you're going to see that little bit of white, which really is going to make everything pop on your card. So then this is going to go right over in this section, and it's going to cover up that piece that we put on top of the buckle. All right, so there we go with that. Now, next on the inside, this bottom piece, we're going to be stamping on those two. And this is the piece that's going to go onto one of the pieces of white, and it is going to make our other bottom fold. Let's just grab some of that white. Again, 1/8 of an inch border, so we're going to have a little bit of white, but not a whole lot of white. And we're going to add this piece right in here. So there's going to be a little bit of a border between these two pieces here, and that should happen. Okay, we're going to stamp this one. We're going to stamp this one, and we're going to stamp this one, and this one is going to go onto the front. All right, so let's do some stamping, and then we'll start adding the rest of the pieces. So in this one here, all I'm going to be stamping is my sentiment on the inside, and I'm going to be stamping that in Misty Moonlight. So I'm going to take my sentiment, it's thinking of you fondly, get it inked up, and I'm going to stamp that right in the center. I got that from the stamps that I used last week because I just thought it was the perfect sentiment for inside. So let me just set that aside. We'll add that in a minute. On this one, we're going to stamp some of the leaves using the Misty Moonlight. So I'm going to have one just standing up straight, and then the other one is going to go off to the side. Okay, so that one is all set. Might be hard to see it down on the table, but it's just color on color. So I'm going to set that one aside. We'll attach them in just a minute. I am going to clean this stamp because I'm going to use it in Early Espresso. And while the Early Espresso is darker than the Misty Moonlight, it's a dark brown, I don't want to get the blue onto my ink pad. So I'm going to take this piece here and the Early Espresso, and I'm going to stamp the same thing. I'm going to stamp one standing up, and then one off to the side. And I'm going to use the Hello stamp from the Simple Little Greetings, and I'm going to stamp Hello right up here in the upper corner. Okay. Now the last bit of stamping before I do my labels, I am going to be stamping. So we have this coming down. I'm going to be stamping this right here because I want to be able to have my dear friend on it. So what I'm going to do is take my Stampin' Right marker, and I am going to color in first the deer. So I'm using the brush end to do this. It's a cool way you can use your stamps in a different way. And then I'm going to huff on it, and I am going to stamp. This is going to be closer to, I'm going to stamp the deer right there. Clean the stamp because I don't want any residue of that deer on here. And now I'm going to stamp, I'm going to ink up with the Stampin' Right marker Friend. Put the cover back on, and I'm going to huff on it again to reactivate that ink. And there we have the Dear Friend. Instead of side by side, we have it one on top of the other one. Kind of a cool way to do it, so you can see what it will look like on the front. Okay, so let's start adding some of these pieces in. So I'm going to put my piece of the Misty Moonlight Designer Series paper that I stamped the leaves onto a piece of white. There we go. And this is going to go on the inside of the card. This is another card that's going to be a little more expensive to mail. So there we go there. And then our piece of white that we stamped our greeting on is going to go right here. And let's see. I think I'm going to add for this one. Let's clean those leaves again. And I'm just going to put a couple leaves on the opposite side. Just have a few. I'm not going to even ink it up a lot. I'm just going to ink the top part up. And then I'm going to just stamp that right in the corner. And that's going to go on the inside. There we go. We're going to put something here. This is going to go down. Now we're going to add this piece right here. Layer that right on our piece of basic white. So if you're watching the live, it doesn't matter, the live or the replay on Facebook or on my YouTube channel, please make sure you say hello and tell me where you're watching from. And then this piece is going to get this front piece. Now I will say you really want to make sure you have creased this really well, because this is going to be a pretty bulky card, so it will probably cost you a little more in postage. But you can see how this designer series paper works so well together and just makes it a beautiful card. There we go. Okay, now let's do the rest of our stamping. Make sure I'm matching up the right pieces with the and the small one. And then we're going to put this one here. Okay, we're good. All right, so let's add this to the front. So this is going to be our inside piece. But I want to put this piece on first to make sure we line everything up the way we want to. And I'll show you why. You want to start with this front piece that's going to go on our panel first. So both of these pieces are 3 by 3. So once they're all layered on, they're both 3 by 3. And one's going to go on the front and one's going to go on the back. And what I want to do is I want to line this up so that this piece is centered on the front of the card. So then it shows me the only piece that I am going to put some adhesive on. So I've put a good amount of adhesive there. I'm going to go back to lining this up so it's center on the card. I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to press it down. So there's my first piece of the buckle. Now what I'm going to do is take this piece and I'm going to be attaching it right to the back side of the buckle. So let me now what you could do, they do sell these little tiny magnets now, and you could get the little magnets and put in under this layer and under this layer before you put them on top of each other, and you could use that to close the card, but I find it closes pretty well on its own. Okay, now the card is made. So there are all of our pieces, and now we just have to stamp the front and the inside pieces. So here is how I did that. I'm not going to be stamping the entire stamp, so I just put the top part on. And for my larger circle, I'm going to be using the larger flower. And so with my black ink pad, I am going to carefully ink up this part of the stamp. And if I see that I get it on a spot I don't want, I'm just going to take a paper towel with some stamp cleaner and get that off, because I just don't want that ink there. And let me just go back to that. So now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to actually grab just a piece of paper, so I don't mind if I get black ink on my mat when I am working by myself, but right now I don't want to get it on. Okay, so there is our first piece. So I need to go into my stamp cleaner and I need to clean that off, because now we're going to do the smaller piece, and I'm just going to make sure it's all dry and that we don't have any ink left. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing on the smaller flower to go on the smaller label, and I'm just going to ink that section up. Okay, and we're going to go right in the middle with that side. There we go. Doesn't that look great? So I've got the whole stamp, but I've got it in different pieces. So let me just close this up, and we're just going to use some of the blends to color these in. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to use boho blue because I just want a lighter blue, and I'm just going to color in all of these floral pieces. The lighter blue will go with the Misty Moonlight. The Misty Moonlight blends seem a little dark to me, so I didn't want it to go too dark. I wanted the flowers to just be very light and, you know, fun. And I am going to do a little bit of blending. As you know, if you have watched me in the past, I prefer to use my lighter color first, and then I add my dark highlights. You will see as you watch other crafters use their blends, some like to start with the dark and then blend over with the light. It's just your personal preference. Alright, so there's our light blue. Now I'm going to use the fine tip because I really want to focus my dark shades towards the bottom. And I'm going to do the same on this little one. And then I like to go back in with my light and just blend this in a little bit. Okay, so I have my flowers done in that really pretty blue. And now I'm going to use Granny Apple Green for my leaves. Again, starting with the light. Actually, I'm going to use my smaller tip on these. Because the leaves are pretty narrow. And I do want to stay inside the lines. And then I'm just going to go in and add just a little bit at the bottoms and the tops. And I'm not even going to blend this in very much. I'm just using the lines right on the stamp image to help me with my coloring. And then what I wanted to do on the little one for the front, I'm going to take some Misty Moonlight ink and I'm going to stamp off and then stamp on these little speckles. Now you can go as high on this as you want. You can color the entire piece of paper. I, on my card, colored the entire piece. I want to see what, so here's what it looks like with the entire piece speckled in. And then here's what it looks like with just half speckled in. A little more than half. I think for this one, I'm just going to have the speckles at that bottom half. And I didn't do this on the inside, but I think I'm going to, for this one, add a little bit. So I'm just stamping the first one off, and then I can stamp a couple on, and it comes out really light. And I think I'm just going to add it to the bottom of this one because with the little flower, I guess I don't need to be that close up for you. And just add a little bit. I think I'll add a little bit, one more over here. There we go. Okay. So now we just have to add everything and that embellish, and we're done. So this first flower is going to go right on the front. I'm going to turn it so that flower is kind of tilted towards the sun. And then on the inside, I'm going to be adding this layered right onto this. And this is going to go on the inside. All right, so let's close this over. I have some of this is from the Baker's Twine Essential Pack, and this is the one that matches the crumb cake. I'm going to make a double bow with this, and then get it so it's not as big. There we go. And I'm going to trim that off. When you do the, when you make your bow right on the spool, you waste so little ribbon in the long run. So I just have a tiny bit there. And then I'm going to get a glue dot. Oh, I'm such a fussy bow maker. This one is too big. And this one is too small. And they're twisted in each other. So let's make that one a little smaller. There we go. So now we'll put it on that glue dot. And then I will use my Take a Pick tool to add it to the card, which is going to go right here. There we go. And then I have some of, I'm using, these are last year's, I don't know if they're still in the catalog, but I'm going to add some, a little bling. These are the boho blue ones. And I'm going to add one of each size. I know there are some new boho blue. I hate just not using my other ones. So I apologize if you can't purchase these. And then we'll do this last one. All right, and I think I'll put that one right here. And there we have it. Fun Fold Friday all done for today, May 10th, Mother's Day weekend. I could have changed this card and said Dear Mom and made this into a beautiful Mother's Day card. But this one is for a friend. So I'm calling it a buckle fun fold. And the reason is because of this buckle here. You open it, and then you open up, and then you open out for this fun fold. And it's such a cool and interesting card. So I hope you really have enjoyed seeing how to make it. It's not as difficult as it looks. And with this buckle, it does help this stay closed nicely. So thank you so much for joining me. I will be here Mother's Day night at 7 o'clock for a new month's edition of Simply Stamping Sunday. We're going to be using the Painted Lavender set. So I hope you're able to join me for that. And in my Facebook group, Card Making Fun, I will be doing a live tomorrow night at 7, and I will be sharing a mystery stamping event. So you have to be part of my Facebook group. It begins with ink and paper, card making fun, to be able to participate in the mystery stamping. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a fabulous weekend, and I look forward to seeing you Sunday night and next Friday for another edition of Fun Fold Friday. Good night, everybody.